Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that everything you thought you wanted, the career, the applause, the spotlight, was only half the story. That the real treasure was something far softer, far warmer, quietly waiting at home with a goofy smile, a half-burnt cup of coffee, and arms that felt like the safest place on earth. This is not a farewell tale. This is a love story disguised as a life-changing decision, inspired by a woman who chose heart over hype, warmth over noise, and home over headlines. Kelly Ripa had spent years in front of bright studio lights, laughing with guests, charming audiences, and making viewers feel like they were part of her family. She had a rhythm, a spark, a natural glow that didn't need retakes or rehearsals. People tuned in just to feel her energy, like the familiar voice in the kitchen that makes the morning feel alive. But behind every glamorous moment, there was a quieter truth. A truth she only shared with one man, Mark Consuelos. Their story, even in fiction, is more romantic than anything Hollywood could script. They first crossed paths as two young actors chasing their dreams, each with big hopes and bigger hair. Sparks didn't just fly, they practically set off smoke alarms. Before long, they were finishing each other's jokes, reading each other better than scripts, and pretending not to stare when the other walked by. Life moved fast for them. Red carpets, roles, babies, careers, chaos. But no matter how loud the world got, their love stayed soft and steady. He was her anchor. She was her favorite kind of trouble. Together, they were unstoppable. But even unstoppable people get tired. Kelly began noticing the little things she was missing. The school plays she watched only on blurry phone videos, the late-night conversations she slept through, the quiet dinners that turned into reheated leftovers because she was still at the studio. She had built a life millions admired, but she wasn't always living the parts that mattered most. One evening, after a long day of work, she walked through the front door expecting the usual chaos. Barking dogs, kids yelling, someone shouting, "What's for dinner?" She braced for the beautifully messy life waiting inside. But instead, she found Mark sitting on the porch, leaning back in his chair, watching the sky turn soft shades of orange and pink. No scripts, no cameras, just him. He looked up with those familiar warm eyes and said, "You're home late," but not in a way that scolded her, in a way that asked, "Are you okay?" She sat beside him, and for the first time in a long time, they didn't talk about schedules or work or who forgot to buy milk again. They talked about them, their dreams, their memories, their future. And somewhere between laughter and a few quiet tears, Kelly realized she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Stillness. Actual stillness. The next morning, something shifted inside her. She walked into the studio, greeting everyone with her usual smile, but this time it felt different, lighter, freer, as though she secretly knew a truth the world wasn't ready for. During the show, she felt every moment more intensely than ever. The jokes, the applause, the warmth of the audience who loved her. But underneath it all, she sensed something pulling her gently home. And when the final moments of the broadcast approached, her breath caught in her throat. She hadn't planned some dramatic announcement. She wasn't trying to create headlines. She simply followed her heart. With a small, shaky smile, she thanked the viewers who had welcomed her into their homes morning after morning. She thanked her coworkers who had become a second family. And then her voice softened, warmer than it had ever sounded. "My greatest role," she said, "is the one I play when the cameras turn off. The one waiting for me at home." The studio grew silent. Not tense, not sad, just full. Full of love, gratitude, and a bittersweet ache. She continued gently, "I've spent decades giving my mornings to the world. Now I want to give them back to the people who share every other part of my life." Her eyes shimmered, not with regret, but relief. Real relief, the kind you feel when you finally choose yourself and the people who love you most. After the show ended, she walked outside, half expecting doubts to creep in. Instead, she saw Mark leaning against the railing exactly where he always waited for her, hands tucked into his pockets, wearing the smile of a man who knew she'd finally come home. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. He simply wrapped his arms around her, whispered, "Proud of you," and kissed the top of her head like she had made the bravest choice of her life. From that moment forward, their world changed. Mornings weren't chaotic anymore. They were cozy. Coffee didn't come in paper cups, but in mismatched mugs they'd collected over the years. She and Mark danced in the kitchen for no reason at all, bumping hips, playing terrible 90s playlists, arguing over who had worse rhythm. Their kids laughed more. Their home felt louder, but in the best ways. Life stretched out in front of them like a brand new script, except this time they were writing it themselves. Kelly found joy in things she had forgotten she loved: slow breakfasts, spontaneous road trips, messy hair days, and falling asleep on the couch with Mark snoring beside her like a bear recovering from hibernation. They learned that romance wasn't about perfect anniversaries or fancy vacations. It was about burnt toast, inside jokes, shared glances across the room, and holding hands during life's smallest moments. Kelly's fans, though heartbroken at first, eventually understood. Many even celebrated her courage online, saying her decision made them rethink their own priorities, that maybe success wasn't measured in numbers, applause, or headlines, but in the quiet moments we often overlook: living room lights, dinner table laughter, arms that feel like home. Kelly didn't disappear from the world. She simply reappeared where she mattered most. And as time passed, she became even more radiant, even more herself, because sometimes the brightest light is not the one shining on you, but the one glowing softly within you. Her legacy didn't fade, it evolved. She inspired people not by staying in the spotlight, but by leaving it with her head high and her heart full, by choosing love as fiercely as she had once chosen ambition, by proving that the bravest thing you can ever do is rewrite your story, especially when the world expects you to keep reading the old one. And so this chapter closes not with sadness, but with hope. Because somewhere, in a home filled with laughter, mismatched socks, and the smell of dinner someone definitely overcooked, Kelly and Mark are starting a new adventure together, one where the only spotlight they need is the warmth of their shared life. If you've ever wondered whether it's too late to choose yourself, this story whispers the truth. It's never too late. Not when love is waiting, not when home is calling, not when your heart already knows the way.